Someone has written in talking about the fact that they keep hearing the word Kuyperian. What does that mean? Who is this Kuyper guy anyway? And why should we care? Do you care, actually? I do, but let me explain after you care, after you explain.
You mean Abraham Kuyper?
Abraham Kuyper,
I'm certainly would see myself as in the stream of the Kuyperian tradition. Abraham Kuyper, you can probably rattle off more of his credentials than I can, but was a extremely prolific man in Holland.
I describe him as a tornado in boots.
There you have it.
The theologian, educator, prime minister.
The whole 9 yards, and was and so when I hear the term Kuyperian, and when I initially think he's famous for the quote that there's not one square inch of the entire world over which the Lord Jesus does not cry, mine.
Right.
And so, particularly, so in the first instance, the lordship of Christ over everything.
Not just the lordship of Christ over our hearts or over our personal salvation, but
arts, politics,
stuff, movies,
business, everything. So Jesus is Lord of all of it, and so as disciples of Jesus, we want to bring it all into submission to Him.
Right. Now, I would argue that the Reformation was Kuyperian in principle long before Kuyper, and that Kuyper was simply sort of a high watermark of that kind of impetus. There are in recent years there's been a tendency among some Reform types who want to limit sort of the Reformation to ecclesiology, or there's a pietistic stream, so they're confessionalists within the boundaries of the church, and that's what they fight for. Then there are pietist Reformed who want to limit it all to your own personal experience. And then there are the Kuyperians who, in a previous clip, we talked about when we were asked, how would you summarize what's going on in Moscow? What are you guys trying to do? What's it all about? The way I put it there is we want to embrace a vision of all of Christ for all of life. So Christ in everything, Christ overall, Christ engaged in everything, which doesn't turn everything into a perpetual quiet time where everybody walks around with a holy glow on their face and 2 inches above the floor.
Right.
But it's where you take the Bible seriously and you seek to be obedient in all the different callings that God has called you to. And that appears to me to have been a strong feature of Reformation thought through the Huguenots, Calvin's work in Geneva, Bucer's work in Strasbourg. It was global and all-encompassing. And then some wings of the Reformed tradition started to veer away from that, and Kuyper was sort of the last reassertion of it. And we're trying to reassert it again. So it's not, we're not Kuyperian in the sense of I'm of Paul, I'm of Apollos. It's not factionalism or party spirit. It's just shorthand for communicating to someone that you think that your faith should get into everything.
Right, and being a Kuyperian also doesn't mean you know what it will all look like on the other side.
Right.
There's, I think, sometimes maybe criticism that we know exactly what Moscow discipled is supposed to look like, or the United States discipled, that we somehow have this magic mirror that we've seen the end of the story, which is not true. So there should always be a kind of humility in submission to Jesus, and so we're just saying we're called to obedience in everything to Christ, and that we'll let Jesus sort out the details on the other end.
Yeah, faithfulness in the present is our responsibility. The results are His. We can plant and water, but God gives the increase, and it's when the increase comes that everybody discovers the true nature of the plant.
Right.
Right.